Systemic solution to what's happening in our culture with our youth inside of the education system, because that really is the battleground. The home is part of it, but the schools are the battleground. So we're going to talk just very briefly about how this works and how successful the system is and how the scalability utilizing the digital assets and the digital world will. $1 million is just the beginning. And literally how schools are pounding on our door daily, begging us to come in and implement these, and their only caveat is we can't pay what it's worth, but we need it, we want it, and we're here. And both John and I have operated on a we don't care if you have money, please, if they can, pay for a plane ticket, but if they can't, we'll be there. Which isn't the best business model. Imagine like you have a product and somebody says, I really want it, and you're like, okay, here you go. You know, like it doesn't equate businessly, but we're fixing that problem. So John, explain in your words how the system works, the mentoring and the culture changing works.
Yeah, for sure. Well, first off, I'm going to tell you what I absolutely love about the culture of this crowd is that you all are people who you see an issue with the world and then you say, okay, let's just fix it, right? You don't talk about it. You don't form committees around it. You don't like squash it and pretend it doesn't exist. You guys seem to be people, the culture of this whole event seems to be, okay, if there's something out there, we're going to go, we're going to take ownership for it. This is our world, right? So I'm going to be an intentional contributor to it. So think about it this way, and I'll share a little story here. So when I was in the 6th grade, there was I've got to back up a little bit. When I was in the 4th grade, I had a teacher, her name was Miss Gresham. And Miss Gresham stood in front of the class at the beginning of the year. Do you remember house rules? You would get the class rules and all this. And Miss Gresham's pet rule was, whatever you do, do not go writing one another little love letters. You better not get a little girlfriend or a little boyfriend while you're in my class. No love letters, right? Well, there was a chick in there named Marcia. And whether it was love or not, I don't know. But I broke the unbreakable rule, right? I wrote her a note. I expressed my affection. Bad idea. I slid it under her desk, right? Just on top of her books, because I was going to be like that, right? I was going to be that guy. So ever so often in our class, we would change the seating arrangements and switch up desk, right? So the next day I come into school, it's like 10 a.m. I had a dentist appointment, and this girl, Marcia, I walk in class, she's not there, but the class erupts into laughter at me, right? They're all laughing at me, pointing the fingers, I'm the big joke, right? And what happened was this kid named DeWarren sat in her seat as they switched chairs that day. He found the note, stood up with it, and Miss Gresham had him read it in front of class. I know. I never saw Marcia again. True story. I think she checked out and like changed schools. I never saw her again. So here's what happened. So that whole day I got picked on and made fun of, and it was just this big, horrible disaster. But there was this kid named Freddie. Freddie was awkward looking. Over 90% of his body had been burned from a house fire when he was a baby. He had red hair, the reddest hair you've ever seen, just kind of parted over to this side. His face was still kind of disfigured. He never wore shorts because his legs were disfigured. And Freddie got picked on all the time. The only person that hung out with me that day was Freddie. He sat at lunch with me. We threw a football at recess together. And as we were coming in, I said, Freddie, man, why are you doing this? why are you taking the time to like be my friend? And he says, well, I know how it feels to be picked on like you've been picked on today, because it happens to me every day. From then on, Freddie had my allegiance. Fast forward to 6th grade. We come out of elementary school. We're now in middle school. Like 6th grade was the first year of middle school for us. And I mean, man, some of the 7th grade guys and 8th grade guys like ripped this kid apart. Like they would hit him and punch him and trip him in the hall and call him names and just the worst kind of meanness and just cruel to this guy, like for absolutely no reason other than the fact that he just looked a little different than everybody else. I'm like, what's up with that? So the last day of school that we're there, right? So I'm 37 years old, do the math. The last day of school, my 6th grade year, we're having this field day at school, right? Where we're just playing and having games and stuff. And we're sitting in the bleachers up at the school, inside of the gym, and Freddie pulls out a gun at school. And this is like early 90s. Like Columbine hasn't happened yet, right? And Freddie pulls out a gun, and he says, I'm going to take care of these guys right now. You guys are fine. Y'all been my friends. But he says, I'm so tired of the way these guys treat me. And Freddie pulls out a gun. Now, Freddie's sitting to my left side, and a friend named Jacob was sitting beside him. And my other friend, Jacob, was just like frozen. Was just got completely terrified, scared, right? He's just in his tracks. Freddie's got a gun at school. Like, what is this about? And it was one of those moments where I'm really thankful, like as a 6th grader, I'm just so appreciative that there was the presence of mind there to engage Freddie in that moment. And I put my arm around him and I say, man, come on, this isn't you. You're not that guy. Let's just walk outside for a minute and let's just pause and take a moment to just breathe and just like rethink this. He did. We walked down the bleachers, around the end. One of our PE coaches was there. I tugged on his shirt. Coach Day comes out, walks with us, and I said, Freddie, do you have something you need to tell Coach? And Freddie, with tears rolling down his eyes, takes out that gun from his pocket and hands it over to Coach. And Coach was one of those kind of older, gruffy PE coaches, you know? Not a whole lot of emotion at all. But I saw a tear come down out from under his glasses. He put his arm around Freddie and walked him into the school. From that moment in my life, it was one of those kind of defining moments. We heard Dylan sitting in this chair just a few minutes ago share that we just need one person to believe in us, right? And we just need one person to love us. And we just need one person to care about us. And what we do in peer mentoring, and I'm still really not sure that mentoring is the right word, because the word mentor it has a connotation about it that there's an excellence there and there's an expertise that's been acquired. It's like something that I can pass off and hand off. But what we do in our groups is we create authentic community with the mythological gods on campus who are the upperclassmen, right? Who wield all the influence. We create authentic community by allowing them to partner up with underclassmen just to do life together in groups, just to talk about how school's going, how home's going. It's structured to an extent, but it's very loose the way we play it. Like, I started to do something with you guys today. I started to just ask you to turn to your neighbor and just ask, like, what's the best thing that's happened in your week so far? Right? We did it coming up the mountain earlier this morning. Do you remember? What's the best thing about your week so far? Or what's like the low? Like what's maybe not so great about your week so far? And we start all of our mentoring sessions, the groups of 4 or 5, with that same idea. We start every session the same way. Highs and lows. What's going on? Now, it's been said that it takes about 8 hours of FaceTime for us to get to know one another, for us to truly feel like we actually know the person that's in front of us, about 8 hours. So what happens is this takes place throughout the full duration of the school year. Groups meet 3 or 4 times a month. It's roughly 22, 24 sessions throughout the school year. There's training and selection and recruiting and all these things that happen in advance. And so we don't have to have this massively huge organization of like personnel. Right now the model is, and this may change, it may not, but right now the model is we go into a school, we go into a district or system, and we train faculty members who care and who want to change and who want to see authentic community take place on campus. In our pilot school in Alabama of doing this, the school's roughly 350 students. The national average school size is around 500, so this one's right around average. Of these 350 students for this school, so like for the past 12 years before we came in, they finished 24th place out of 24 schools in their district in attendance. Their attendance levels was like low 70s, right? As well, of those students who came to school, so do the math on that, 72% of 350 students, that was about what they averaged for like a decade on campus at one time. Of that, 49 students a month was their average of people receiving discipline referrals. So a discipline referral is getting suspended, getting expelled from school, or getting sent to alternative school. So of the 70 or so percent of students that came to school, 49 a month were being disciplined to some degree. It equates to 1 in 6 in a day on their campus. As well, their grades, they were a failing school in the state of Alabama as far as their grades are concerned. So a failing school in Alabama, how does that rank in the world view, right? In the greater picture, like not good at all. So after 2 years of peer-to-peer mentoring, where upperclassmen were intentional with the underclassmen and just having conversations and dialogue and building community and creating authenticity, just the issues along the way that we were able to subvert. Like for instance, there was one time where there were 2 girls in groups. The girls were in different groups, but the girls were friends. And they had planned on, one had stolen her father's car keys, the other friend had stolen her mom's or her grandmom's credit card, and they were gonna run away and like drive to Texas. Like that was their plan. High school freshmen, right? This was what they were gonna do. Their mentors got wind of this, came to me, I went to the principal, we were able to cut it off and also identify some really unhealthy behavior that was going on in one of the girls' homes, right? So after 2 years of being on campus at this school, the discipline referrals decreased like 96%, from like 49 per month to 2. Yeah, they finished that same year, right? After 2 years, they finished second place in attendance in their district overall. They were a 10th of a point behind first place. It was that close. Like I was asking for a recount, right? And in addition to that, the principal at this school says, man, our test scores have gone just up dramatically at every grade level. When we're able to lay aside pretenses, right? When I'm able to see you as a human and we're able to peel the layers back and just have a genuine, authentic conversation about how life's going, and then sincerely and authentically care, like let's scale that.
And what's this is one case study. In the last bit, we've been doing more case studies with the concept of digitizing this program and giving an app and gamifying. And those that know me, I've been talking about this for 5 years, and we've been doing it in different aspects. But we've really honed in what the schools need, what they want, what they can handle, what they can't. There's a lot. And we talk about teachers that care. One of the biggest hurdles for teachers is not having the tool set because they don't have the time, so they need the tool set and all of the pieces already done for them, so it's plug and play. The problem with the administration is that many of them have been burned by $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 keynote speakers who come in and talk about bullying issues, and what they see is an increase in bullying. What John and I have found is that and we have this conversation with the children, is that you put the word anti in front of a word and you all of a sudden think that you fixed the problem. Really what you do is you actually overemphasize and you put top mind awareness to the problem, not to the solution. So you say anti-bullying, and there's statistical data since the Reagan administration, which is really where this became like anti-drugs, anti-bullying, anti. The numbers have all shot up. And yes, there's other parts to it, but when you understand human psychology, what the children are focused on is the bullying. What they're focused on are creating superficial campaigns to create superficial awareness on problems with no solution. What we do is come in with the curriculum and the concepts and the tools. We don't even talk about suicide and bullying. What we talk about is happiness, joy, excitement, vitality, moving life, going forward. And then what happens is that's what their focus is. And all the other stuff becomes, it's there to some level. But we have children who are literally going home and being beaten by their alcoholic parent and having the fortitude now to be like, that sucks. That's my nightlife. But then I get to go to school and work on me. And then what ends up happening is, and I've told this story before, is that these girls then stand up to that parent at 14 because they have a community that they can go back to, and not just a peer group of friends who have no freaking idea how to support each other, but they have a peer group that's in connection with a system that is communicating with them. If you remember last year, I talked about, and we talked at X Prize, and we're working on the Avatar project, where we can literally create these avatars, and like I can have like 15 guys sitting in a place in LA that are running avatar suits, and like we were like, we got to figure this out. We scale this, right? Well, we figured out that we can utilize whether it's artificial intelligence, but for right now, stage one is a like old-fashioned call center, support center, where when this like what John just said, this student finds out that they're planning this thing, whatever, and all of a sudden they have somewhere they can call and they can get a response and say, this is what's about to happen. And then there's a team in place that can make it happen. Like, to get really real with you, the shootings that you hear about, we have both been in schools enough. They knew. There were threats, there were things made, principals knew, people knew. There's no system to stop it. Right. If you just heard about the Patriots wide receiver, Edelman, he gets a comment on his Instagram post saying, I'm gonna go shoot up all my classmates. A peer from his school DMs this guy, Edelman, and says, go read your comments, there's somebody saying something. Edelman has the fortitude, like the knowledge, like, I better take this seriously, and he takes it seriously. They find the kid, they find the high school, they get the police involved. The kid had 6 or 7 guns ready to go into the school, and they intercepted it because of a comment on Instagram. These children know what's going on, they have no idea where to go. So scalability of that one scenario, call center. Scalability of training teachers, digital education. You guys are familiar with Masterclass? Yeah. Like the online deal? To me, it's really nicely done. It's beautiful. I love everything doing, but it's talking heads telling you about like experiences in their lives, but some of them are interactive. The exercise you guys just went through, we do this in schools and a lot of other things. And what we're doing is we've partnered with schools where we're going to be filming and turning it into actual like curriculum interactive, filming in schools for different peer groups, different ages, digitizing that and then distributing that across the country for teachers to be able to emulate those exercises live in their classrooms, in their gymnasiums, and be able to have all the curriculum and support, documentation, all of everything that's needed to accomplish the same thing that we do. On top of that, we have been in contact with about 20 different youth speakers, you could call them. Both John and I are getting old, okay? Like, we know it. And we're dads. And one thing we both have in common is we don't want our children to be like, yeah, my dad saved the world, but I never knew him. Right. And scale, like, we know we have to understand that, but we also have to understand that we have responsibilities that are great, and we're willing to take them on, but we're also dads. And we've had this conversation. So we're looking at building an army of youth speakers who will be able to go into schools all over the country and implement a system. They don't have to be the best speaker. They don't have to have the craziest story. They just have to have the energy that is needed to connect with the children, and then have a system behind them that can be implemented. And for a school, it becomes a one-stop shop. You literally, we've talked about this with some other marketing and different things, but a principal makes one phone call and has 8 months taken care of. How many speakers do you want? What here's the curriculum. And it's curriculum from 3rd grade, so where we start, all the way up to senior. It's gamified. It's more complex than we have time to talk about today, but it's gamified. It's systematically organized for the biological development at those ages, what's happening, what's going on, and then you have the giving back, and you have the element of happening. And you've seen just like micro, just here, like Kitty, and she was talking about what she wants to now do back for her high school, because where she's at, I mean, and we have this, Alexandra is now talking, I mean, all these kids that we have worked with, and John the same, they're all saying, okay, I took care of things, now I want to go help others. And so all the upperclassmen have been through the 7th grade nightmare. 7th and 8th grade is the worst. If we could cut that out, it would be awesome. But like, they've been through it, and they're close to it, and that 8th grader looks at the 9th grader and goes, man, that person has, like you said, it's the hero. So John's been beta testing, I've been beta testing. We started beta testing together, both in schools in Alabama, schools in Idaho. John gave an amazing keynote in Florida called How to Stop a School Shooter. Literally, we have senators, we have schools, we have districts begging us, pounding on our doors, states that are saying, this is working, we've seen the data, we are ready, we gotta go. So what we have mathematically figured out is that to make this happen, where we can be in a minimum of 1,000 schools in the next 2 years, we need that 500,000 to build the system, do the filming, support the staff. We have overhead, there's no getting around it. We have travel costs, we have to get places. We are going to be going to the schools that can afford it, because some schools do have budgets. We're working with an individual here in the audience, I don't know where he went, but talking about how there are ways to get money out of schools. You just have to know certain things and go through it. So we're bringing that on. But there are schools that don't have the funds. So we're going to market it as a price, but have scholarships in ways. So like internally, we never say no. Externally, you have to pay, right? But just so you guys know, like we'll be marketing at a price, but really if we look at everything and go, okay, this school really needs this and can't afford it, like that's not gonna stop us from making it happen. So it's scalable. And there's so many technologies. I heard somebody in one of the groups was like, let's use AI. Like we've been talking about that. I've been in conversations, the same AI that's utilized for customer support at Apple. We've been in talking with the engineers about how do we create something with an artificial intelligence that can do support for these youth. I still think we're a few years away from that, but it'll happen. Technology is going to scale us even to another level. But what we create through the technology is the tools for the children to become the human connection to each other. And one of the things that kids don't know how to do anymore, guys, is communicate. Because this is their form of communication. There's no emotion here. I mean, Jody's 10 years younger than me, and I was dating her, and I sent her a text that said, okay, period. That's all, okay, period. Like, okay, cool. I thought that I had like beaten her up or something, because she's like, why would you send me a period? That is like the rudest thing you could ever do. You perioded me? And I'm like, what did I do, right? Like, I had no idea.
You hit the space bar twice.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, okay, space, send, right? And so, but when you think of that form, and now children, like, if you don't say the right, like, emocon or whatever, like, it creates World War III. Instead, we see this with bullying, with girls. They don't know how to communicate, which means they don't know how to share their feelings.
And what we do is we give a healthy incubator, right? So there's safety involved. We train those students who serve as mentors. Hey, you're a mandatory reporter now. So when you hear something, you got to bring it to us, or you got to bring it to your principal. If it's life-threatening, we've got to know about it. And the mentors, the upperclassmen, they do. They take ownership for those people around them. And one of the most beautiful things about this is that they figure out that they have influence, right? You would think that we know it already because we're always, we're posing for selfies and doing this and we're posting stuff. We're looking at the likes and the comments and we're constantly looking for that social validation. So you would just assume that we already believe that we know we have influence, but many, for the most part, don't. In the system, one of the things that we do is we actually allow the underclassmen to select who their mentor is going to be. So there's this almost like courting period where they have an opportunity to get to know one another, and there's different group games and some discussion and interaction. But when those mentors hear, this kid selected me, why? Why did they pick me? Right? And it gives you that opportunity to say, you have influence and you didn't even know it. You're impacting someone's life and you didn't even know that they were watching you and they were listening to you. We've had principals tell us that things like profanity and where hands are placed on girlfriends and the way kids drive out of parking lots and whether or not trash is getting picked up. We've had things like principals tell us that those things change. And it's even the anecdotal data that we really can't put a check mark on yet. So we want to take this and we want to deliver it. We want to push it out through an app. We want to make it social. We want to gamify the process. We want to bring students who serve as mentors on retreat to camp in the summers, be intentional with that engagement, further that development in their individual leadership, and also help them to understand themselves, get their own emotions, get their own selves in check. Part of my story is this. I've never met my father. I have no idea who he is. No idea what he walks like, talks like, any of it. And I grew up in a really abusive alcoholic home. A lot of drug abuse, a lot of physical abuse, you name it, it was present. I've lived through 4 house fires as a kid. It was a bad place. Along the way, I had a friend in middle school who began to believe in me. And in middle school and high school, I practically lived with him. And Bo, my friend, his dad was Steve. And Steve asked me, just after I graduated high school, I was in a really low place. I didn't know if I wanted to go on anymore, you know what I mean? And we pull over on the side of the road, and it's just Steve and I. He's driving. And I'm telling him my thing. I'm like, Steve, I just don't know. I don't want to replicate the pattern. I don't want to attract a wife to me and her live with what I've lived with because I've not learned how to overcome that past. And Steve said, John, it's absolutely not about where you are right now. But where do you want to be 5 years from now? He says that's what counts. And if we can put that question and be intentional about it and be proactive about it and help kids learn how to engage with each other in a way where they can build that community that's looking for something in life. Because guys, the truth is there's a lot of jacked up stuff in our culture today. And if we can help our kids identify, you know what, I can be a part of the solution. I can be an active participant in my own rescue. I was in Gainesville a few weeks ago for that event. We had 8 events in 2 days. It was nuts. Be back in Gainesville in a couple weeks. They asked us to come back. The University of Florida wants to get involved. They want to do some data testing on it, some research. I was at a high school. It was at Gainesville High School. It's 2,200 students, kind of big school. And we're having this, it's just me with the crowd and a microphone, and we're having this conversation, and I start kicking it back and forth to the students in the crowd. And I'm like, what can we do to end school shootings? What can we do to end bullying? What can we do to recreate culture? Because guess what, guys? It's your culture. You're creating it, right? You're the one that's either creating or maintaining what is. So it's on you, right? It's on me for allowing it. So we started doing this organic conversation around the room. We're passing the mic. And there was this guy sitting up front.
It's Pop Tom. Come here, young man. Come here. Listen.
The whole time I could just tell something's burning inside of him, right? I give him the microphone. He walks up really kind of shy and not ready to go yet. You could tell that it wasn't really his comfortable place to be.
Look, before they ever believe in you to step out and create some change, you got to believe in you.
But he started talking to his peers. And I was sitting over here like a proud papa, like, yes, you know, I'm like about to explode inside because this guy he just got it. After 45 minutes, he got it, you know, in this assembly.
Fix it. What's the issue?
The issue is that we cut ourselves short because we feel like if we end up correcting a situation that other people look at us like we're different. But really, the thing is, we're called to be different.
Give him more. Give him more. Wait. He's got more. What kind of different are you called to be?
Yeah.
That's an interesting word you choose.
Yeah.
What kind of interesting are you called to be? You tell them. What kind of different? Tell them. Hurry up, they gotta go. Tell them.
We call it the top, really, because everybody else like to be on the bottom. They don't feel like, what they're doing is worthy. So if you step up and come to the plate and show the people how you're supposed to be, then that's when you cause change, and causing change makes a big difference.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you guys, our students, they're craving, they're looking for an answer, they're looking for a solution, they're looking for something to spearhead this epidemic issue that's going on in our country. And I'm telling you, they're primed and ready to follow. And they make amazing leaders. When we come alongside of them and we believe in them, and we know, we show them, we trust them, we equip them, we train them, that's how we change the world. We change it one kid at a time, one school at a time.
And it's their culture. They own it and they respect it. So that's a really quick way of going through it. I mean, obviously we're here all the rest of the time. So if you have more questions, and tomorrow is going to be a day of a lot of networking and communication. Obviously we still have some presenters and stuff, but we've got some really fun stuff planned. So there'll be more time for communication, but just so you kind of have an idea of where we're going and what we're looking to do and how serious this is. And both John and I've already said, like, we're going regardless. We'll figure it out, you know, but you have a meeting like 3 to 4 days after this with the university and putting that all in play. So anyway, yeah, go ahead.
What Wes just said about we're going, period.
Period.
Space. As Parkland was happening, when I'm in town, we do this thing where we carpool and we, kids to school in the morning and picked up in the afternoon and that kind of thing. And I love being dad, right? I love getting to be my wife's husband and my kid's dad. I get this text that says, hey, you need to jump on so-and-so's Insta Live right now. And that was it. I jumped on, and it's a kid in Parkland live streaming what's going on as the shooting was taking place. I heard the gun go off. And I saw this kid's holding the camera with a young girl right here and one of their friends laying in the floor, and there's like a pool of blood forming. We have the solution to end this. And I believe that we absolutely have the obligation to end this. I absolutely believe in a world where that thing never has to happen again. And we can do it. So, thank you guys for being here. Thank you for believing in Wes. Thank you for believing in the mission and what we're doing and being willing to help change the world.
Thank you.
How you doing? This is Justice Anderson on behalf of Shoot with a Camera, Not with a Gun. We are here at the Human Gathering today, and I have the very special honor to introduce Dr. Drew himself.
There you guys.
And Dr. Drew, how do you feel about the Human Gathering this year? Do you feel like the topics that were touched today and the days before were, meaningful towards the people that attended here?
Oh yeah, I think people are moved profoundly. I was moved, so I don't think and that's sort of what became clear towards the end of the sessions, is that we're all in this really interesting, interconnected space where we're all sharing something very profound and very human.